Welcome back to another video from Carl's Cycle Supply. This video is about the first year of Hydra glides, which is 1949, and more specifically this Flight Red 49 EL that we did a mechanical restoration on 15 or 20 years ago. In addition to the technical info that we try to put in all of our videos, this video has a ton of great factory literature and even some great experimental photographs from Pullman Studios, who got images for Harley for decades. This is one of my favorite motorcycles. It's a 1949 Hydra Glide that my father and I did a mechanical restoration on for a very close friend. He had owned the bike since the 70s and knew that it was time to do some work on it, and he trusted us to do it. We did that maybe 20 years ago. And he was a very close friend. His wife was amazing. She was on the board of directors for the AMCA at the same time I was. She was an absolute queen. They're great people. It was Jerry and Trudy Johnson Richards. We had a lot of fun together over the years. Jerry was very instrumental in the judging program and rolling out the 100-point system that is used in modern day judging. He was a deputy chief judge for the AMCA, and I'm really glad I knew him, and whenever I see this bike it just brings back so many good memories. I love the motorcycles, I love working on them, I love fixing stuff, but the people are just as good as the stuff that we get to work on. So we've got a few more 49 panhead videos coming up, and we'll start with this one. So 49 is the first year for a hydraulic fork. This is groundbreaking. Harley had been working on this since the war. There's some very cool prototype photos of a 44 or 45 knucklehead with a very cool crude hydraulic front end. I'm sure the mechanics of it were very nice, but I think in the picture they were messing with some different styling for how to cover up the mechanics of everything and make it look streamlined. I read that Brooks Stevens played a huge part in developing the outline and the look and the styling of how this fork is finished, and also with the front fender. 49 is the second year of the panhead. It has a ton of 1 year only parts. The fork legs are 1 year only, they're unpolished. They had two different tins for the front fork. They had two different types of vent caps right here. This is a much later one, so it has the later top tin and the later caps. They had 1 year only spotlight brackets, 1 year only spotlights. These are the incorrect ones. They had three standard color options. I think it was peacock blue, burgundy, and black. And then they also had special order colors. This color is Flight Red. I think you could get metallic Congo green, azure blue, and white. This bike is a deluxe sports solo. That means it's kind of the top of the line. It's got running lights, it's got oil filter, it's got the cool muffler cover, it has saddlebags, a rear bumper, just all the cool stuff. 49 has a lot of stainless steel parts, and a lot of them are 1 year only, some of them are a couple year only. This has a 1 year only air cleaner cover, and there's actually two different gauges of these. One's early and one's late. It has a riveted on tag. 55 also has a stainless air cleaner cover, but the data and information is stamped into it rather than having a riveted on tag. The circuit breaker cover is also stainless steel, and the muffler cover, which came out in late 48, is also stainless steel. This cover was new old stock. When we first started making mufflers, I did a video on our prototype muffler, and I took this cover out of the paper and put it on this, and it fit perfectly. That was one of the problems with the reproduction mufflers at the time, was that the stainless covers wouldn't fit quite right. Original mufflers have always been hard to find. They were easier back then, but still nobody wanted to spend a bunch of money on an original muffler and then cover it up with an expensive cover. So kind of a cool 49 only thing. They're absolutely beautiful. And one of my favorite parts is how the stainless kind of wrinkles up right here, and then how it all folds together on itself right here. I had loaned one of these to a guy in Switzerland 15 years ago. Not this one, because it wasn't ours at the time. But he had had one of his friends make a copy of it, and it just turned out absolutely perfect, but it didn't fold over when it was up here. It was a little bit nicer. So 49 is the first year for this fender, so I got new fenders front and rear. There's no longer an edge on here and a spot welded on skirt. It has these cool stripes on the side. This is a 49/50 only deal. The tail light has a riveted on license plate bracket, and the hole spacing is different between 47-48 and 49-54. So unfortunately you can't interchange that stuff. This bike was really in good condition when he dropped it off. Probably the biggest problem was the frame was broken up in between the tank mounts, and that's very common. Something that Panhead started doing was dimpling the frame tube in between the tank mounts, and they had an internal sleeve in there, and when they did that, sometimes it worked better than others, and sometimes bikes were rode harder than others. Anyways, they end up breaking, and it's something you want to check on every 48, 49, 50 frame. And it seems like by 51 it doesn't show up as much. In 54, they came out with the cool new and improved top motor mount that encapsulates everything and works perfect. So anyways, it's just kind of a fun snippet in time. 49 has a new size for the control wires, the throttle and spark. The spring cable stuff that makes up the outer cable is smaller. It's still cloth coated. And they came up with a new bracket for routing the throttle cable, which works pretty good. They used that through, I think, 54 and then changed in 55. One of the coolest and trickiest parts on any 48 or 49, and you can put these on any bike, is the cool screw-on oil filter. Basically, the oil filter is drilled and tapped for the same size as the oil line fitting. I can't remember what it is, but I have a tap for it. And you take the stud and all the canister stuff off, put a little rubber piece on here, screw in the top, and then put all this together and then run your return line down, and it's just the cleanest thing. But all this extra weight and vibration, it's very common for it to crack the oil tank. Consequently, in 1950, they started coming out with a bracket that came off of the seat post forging that came down and rigid mounted it somewhere down here. It doesn't look as cool, but it doesn't damage anything, so sometimes it's a give and take. One of the other things that is new for 49 and very special is the new steering dampener. Instead of the friction disc being on the bottom and having a rod go through the whole thing like 48 and earlier, everything is self-contained and put on top of the top triple tree. So right here, this little pin is the anchor pin, and then there's a fiber washer on each side, and then a spring underneath. This is just really a cool self-contained system that's new for 49. And I think, like I mentioned in earlier videos, this was supposed to all come out in 48, but it wasn't quite ready. So you just tighten it up, and if you want a more dampened ride, you crank the knob down, and if you want a looser ride, you crank the knob back. What's cool about this is it doesn't get a lot of water splashing on it. You don't get a lot of swelling of the friction plates. It's a much more logical place to put all that stuff. Here is the left side of this 49 that we've been talking about. My dad and I did a mechanical restoration on this when I was probably 19 or 20, maybe 21. It's a great bike. I really love it. So Jerry got this bike in the 70s. One of his first bikes was a 49 Panhead, and he always loved them, and he always was kind of specialized in them. We did two 49s for him. We did the mechanics on this one, and then we did a restoration for him as well. This is a 49 EL. It's the second year of the Panhead. It is a 61 cubic inch engine. 49 is the first year for the hydraulic fork. This is a little bit later one. It says Hydra Glide on the nacelle, and it also has the later top caps that don't have the little nipple on them. It has a couple year only handlebars, 1 year only fork legs, 1 year only brake backing plate. The difference is that the legs are sand cast, not polished. They were painted black. The backing plate is also sand cast. The triple trees, I don't know if they're 49 only or 4950, but instead of having a pinch bolt, they have a stud and then a nut on them. 49 was the first year for this brake lever. It finally has a wide groove right here so that you can just put the cable end in and then put the spool down to hold it rather than feed the inner cable through. 49 has a 1 year only brake adjuster and tube. It's smaller threads. I think it's 1/4 inch instead of 5/16. Most 49s have a 1 year only fender where the pieces that mount it to the fork legs are spot welded on instead of being riveted on. 49s did not, for the most part, have this reinforcement cap right here, but it was very common for the handlebars to flex and crack and break, so this is something they came out with later on in the year, and most of them were retrofitted. It's the third year of the dash, second year of this Speedo. This bike has the original Eaton tall knurl gas caps, original NOS Sante knob, just tons and tons of cool stuff. Jerry swore up and down that this was an original paint bike. When we did the mechanics on it, there's a little bit of Bondo in the front fender, so I think that was touched up. It had a black dash on it. We painted the dash to match the tanks. And then it also had these really messed up top rails on the fender, and they were crooked. And then the chain guard insert was missing from the chain hitting it and being messed up. He had another fender that we took that insert out and then welded it in. And then we filled these holes, and our friend Gilby in River Falls, Wisconsin painted the fender and the dash to match the existing paint. And I think the tanks are original paint. I think most of this is. The dash is not, and the fender has some touch up on it as well. This fender came out in '49, and it is made out of one piece rather than having a hem seam and then skirt spot welded to it. The chain guard insert has 3 ribs in it versus a bolt-in screw-in panel like the previous years. And in '51 they started with a 1-rib chain guard insert. So these flex and the chain hits them, and it's a nightmare. It's very bad design. When they went to the 1-rib, they shortened it up. You can see where the chain was hitting on here. And a lot of times the rare parts are rare because they were a bad design. 49 and 50 have 3 sergeant stripes right here. And then in 51, when they changed fenders, they went to 1 stripe. The saddle bags are king size Western buckle bags. These came out in late 48 and were used in 49. They call them Western buckle bags because of the different fancy buckles right here. And there's 2 or 3 different versions of these buckles. They're pretty cool. They're pretty rare. These ones, they're in good condition. I like it a lot. It has a stainless steel derby cover and a stainless steel clutch bearing cover and generator cover and pan covers. The pan covers came out in super late 48 and were used through 54. And then they went to aluminum. A lot of 49s have a stainless inspection cover as well, but I've also seen them with black ones. This one has a black one, and so does this other green 49 that we're working on getting right now. I don't know when they changed or what the deal was, but what I do know is that 49 was the first year for having these screws go up and down. And it's a very common sense reason why they did it. Why don't you guys leave a comment if you know why they rotated the screws 90 degrees. Another cool thing that 49 premiered was the start of putting the horn right here. And they did this because they didn't have any place to mount it up front like before. With the new fork, they needed a new headlight setup. They needed new spotlight mounts. They needed a lot of things. They came out with a new sealed beam headlight. This is 1 inch bigger than the cycle ray that they used beforehand. And the spotlight mounts are very cool as well. They bolt on the 2 sides. 1 bolt goes into the bottom triple tree, 1 bolt goes into the top triple tree. One thing that's cool about 49 is that they have these non-reinforced mounts for the spotlights. I think in 50 or 51 they started adding a little L bracket that got spot welded to this, and then they used that because they kept breaking. These are very hard to find. I have another set for the next 49 we're getting. This bike has the wrong spotlights on it right now. I bought some, or did a trade with a friend in Europe who had the right ones, which are very specific. I think they're 49, maybe 50 only. I'm not quite sure. They're the right ones. They have a tall bracket, bayonet bulb, no screw in the back. He found them in Egypt, which is so cool, so I need to change those out. I forgot I had them until we rolled this thing in to record it. These little running lights are part of the accessory Deluxe Sport Solo package, and I think when we built this bike for Jerry, he had them wired up as turn signals, but then when we got it, we kept having problems with the flashers, and I think they're just running lights right now. This front bumper is an accessory that Harley made, and then this fender light is also an accessory. To me, I think that the thing is a little too far back, but it's been on there forever, and I think it's cool, so. One of the neat experiences that we got to have with this bike happened back in 2017. I was at my wife's race that she put on and promoted in Sturgis called the Spirit of Sturgis, and my friend Matt King came up to me to tell me about a new project that he was doing with Harley. They had just launched their Milwaukee 8 engine, and the new redesigned Softail chassis, and they wanted to do an article on the Heritage Classic. This is a bike that was styled after the first year Hydra glides and took a lot of visual styling cues from the first year Hydra glide. Of course, I was excited about this, and we said yes, that'd be great to be involved. And Matt and some other guys rode over on brand new unreleased motorcycles and took pictures of our 49 and the new Heritage Classic and put it on the cover of Hog magazine. It was a wild experience that I didn't expect would happen, and it's fun to look back on almost 10 years later and see the pictures of Matt and I out on a country road with a brand new bike and the bike that it was styled after.
Thanks for watching! If you love old motorcycles and would love to follow along on our antique motorcycle restorations, builds, and adventures, be sure to hit the like and subscribe.